Instagram late tonight, saying he was surrounded by family today as he passed away peacefully.
They say their hearts are broken, remembering him as a humanitarian, Olympian, and two-time heavyweight champion of the world. Foreman was a proud Houstonian who was often seen at events around town.
Let's bring in our Jason Bristol now, who was just at an event with Foreman a few months ago. Jason.
And family meant everything to George Foreman. I saw him last December at a celebration for the Rumble in the Jungle, the 50th anniversary. It was an event held in Edo. Both the families of George Foreman and Muhammad Ali were there to celebrate, recognize, and honor one of the greatest spectacles in the history of sports. At that time, George looking nothing like the George Foreman that we all know, and the George Foreman who became so famous, not just as a boxer, but also as a pitchman. The George Foreman grill, of course. In his prime, George was 6'3", 220 pounds, a rock, and one of the most devastating punchers the world has ever seen. His family naturally making him as comfortable as possible during that event while also guarding his privacy. George Foreman, again, was so much more than just a boxer. George Foreman was a family man. George Foreman was a comedian in many ways and aspects. And of course, George Foreman was also a businessman. That epic fight, the Rumble in the Jungle, George Foreman incidentally lost that fight to the great Muhammad Ali. But George Foreman, a member of so many athletic halls of fame, including the Houston Sports Hall of Fame, George Foreman was one of a kind, and we will likely never see another fighter, man, ambassador to the sport like George Foreman was. Back live here in Wichita, where we are covering the Houston Cougars and their quest for a national championship. George Foreman, I remember that celebration of the Rumble in the Jungle. One of the questions we asked of George behind closed doors, if you will, after the celebration had ended, about what he takes the most pride in as he looks back at his career. And without a pause, he said his family. Family meant everything to George Foreman, and certainly we know they are grieving tonight. That is the story here in Wichita as we remember George Foreman. Jason Bristol, KHOU 11 News.
Yeah, people around the world mourning his death, but of course here in the Houston area, as he was local, would see him out and about. Jason Bristol, thank you so much. As you can expect, tributes are starting to pour in for George Foreman. Mike Tyson posting on X tonight this tribute to him. If we take a closer look now, talking about the boxing legend, George Foreman dead at 76, saying condolences to George Foreman's family, his contribution to boxing and beyond.